Hey, this is Abe.
And this is Alexa.
Welcome back to the Get Out and Enjoy Life podcast, or GOEL.
Today we're talking about our trip to the spa and coming home.
So in our last episode, we talked about that we're going to go to this spa. What was the name of it again?
It's called QC Termemilano.
Right. So, Milan was a bit of a struggle for us just because we went during the time that a lot of the Italian people were on vacation. So a lot of the shops were closed, like we've talked about previously. And so we ended up spending quite a bit of time in our hotel, which was thankfully very nice.
It was really nice.
Yeah, it had a lobby. And
had a lobby, had a place to eat, luckily.
Yeah, a little restaurant.
Yeah, because a lot of, like Abe mentioned, a lot of restaurants were closed. And it just had a really nice space. It had an outdoor space, too, if we wanted to go outside.
Yeah, we ended up not really going out there because it was so hot.
So hot.
One of the other things I liked about this was that they had it was almost like a stage, a built-up area towards in this room, and then they built couches or had couches on it.
Yeah, it almost had like a little library too, like in the back, because it had little books stacked. It was very cozy.
Had little nooks along the side of it, little rooms
and
where
warm,
you can pull a curtain.
It had really warm lights. It had a lot of pillows. It was just a nice place to relax in general.
One of the cool things about this, how they structured everything, like they had tables in certain places, even our bed in our bedroom, they were all supported by, I believe it was glass.
Yeah.
Because they were just like panels of glass.
It was like things were floating.
Right.
If you just kind of looked and
it gave it a very airy type of atmosphere. So we ended up doing this, or going to the spa later in the evening. You booked a slot for about 4 hours, I think.
Yeah, it was, the whole thing was open from like 8:30 in the morning to midnight. And so I told Abe, I was like, oh, I forgot. We can go to the spa, because actually I had looked up this spa ahead of us going on this trip, because I tried to write down a few things that we could do in each place.
And we forgot about it, too.
We forgot about it. And then we were kind of sitting there in the morning. I was like, wait, the spa. And so there's multiple passes that you can get. So you can get like a daily pass where you can come whenever time. There's a morning pass to get. There's also an evening one. So we chose the evening because that worked out for our day, and we booked a slot for 7:30.
Yeah. So getting to the spa, like we've talked about in previous podcasts, I like to walk everywhere. I'm maybe a little bit frugal in that aspect.
Wait, let me say this though. I do like to walk people.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you don't like to walk everywhere, but sometimes it's not maybe the best option. Like there's rail systems, Ubers, and other options. And I mean, even in past trips, I've gotten myself into some trouble, even not prior to meeting you, just trying to walk everywhere. Then you spend too much time walking.
Yeah, it takes forever to get anywhere sometimes.
So we had decided that we had a little bit of a miscommunication, I think, because we had talked about the Lime bikes / scooters, and then we had talked about Uber, and then we got down there, and I was like, oh, we're doing the Lime bikes, right?
Yeah, and I was interested in taking an Uber.
Yeah.
Just because we had waited a little bit longer to actually leave the hotel, and so Abe was like, let's do the bikes. I was like, okay, if the bike is close, I'll do that. But I don't see any bikes on the map.
Right. And there were 2 bikes, actually, that were maybe 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
And we got on them and tried them, but it was a little bit sketch riding down the road with the bikes.
The problem wasn't the side roads. It was really getting onto the main road.
Yeah.
Drivers in Italy, they're just all over the place. There's no lanes.
No.
And so...
Or if there are lanes, they're not completely followed.
But they're not always slowing down next to you.
No,
and it's kind of scary. And also these Lime bikes, they were the ones that had kind of they push you a little bit.
Right. They had a pedal assist or something like that.
It's not just like a standard bike. So if you've never been on one of these, it has a part that assists you up hills and really hard parts to get to.
they're all over the place too, and I've
They
never
are.
tried one.
You haven't done one?
No, I've never tried an
I've done
e-bike
it
before. I thought it was like amazing. Like
it was cool.
It takes so little effort.
Yeah, I've done it.
Moving.
I've done it in Seattle, but there were bike lanes there, and so it was a lot easier to get around.
Yeah,
but there's no bike.
There were some bike lanes.
Oh, there were.
But in where we were, there weren't bike lanes.
Yeah, there weren't. So we had to go right on the road, and I was at a point and I was like, I'm stopping, and I got off the bike. I also was in a dress.
Yeah, I gotta hand it to you for even attempting to do it with a dress.
Yeah, it was a little bit of it was like, it came past my knee.
Yeah.
But I also was carrying my bag. Luckily, they had a place to put the bag, like a little kind of basket in the front. Yeah. But because of that pedal assist, I felt so like uneasy where I was, and I felt like I couldn't control the bike as well. So we ended up stopping, ended up taking like an Uber Black, which we've done a couple times because that's been the easiest option.
And that's all that there is. Like there are taxis there, but the taxis in multiple instances that we've tried to do
canceled, or haven't come, or they're not available at that time through the Uber app. So we've had to take Uber Black. So we've been picked up in some nice like Mercedes.
Yeah, this Mercedes, I mean, it was full black interior as well, and then when you open the door, it had the Mercedes logo.
Yeah, it had these glowing lights inside.
Right, like
really
these
neat
blue trim lights. It was really neat.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting to the spa, probably about 30 or so minutes past our appointment time. So we lost.
It wasn't 30 minutes.
Oh,
it was like 6.
Oh, was it 6?
Yeah,
oh, I thought it was
much.
Oh, never mind then. So getting in, they give us basically some instructions to go into your. They had separate locker rooms for males and females, which is nice. And then they give you a locker number. They actually first give you a wristband, and this wristband says your locker number on it, which is kind of cool in case you forget. Yep. And then you go in, and they give you some instructions to get into the locker. You type in your own locker code to it, and what was in there? There
was a robe, which everybody's wearing, an extra towel, and then also some slippers or flip-flops, so you can walk around with those. And then we changed into our bathing suits and everything. Yeah.
We had originally brought out our towels, like with the robes, and then ended up putting them back.
It didn't make sense, and everybody's hanging up the same white-looking robe everywhere when you go into a sauna or into the pool. And so it just made sense to just keep the robe with us.
The one cool thing was they actually had like a tag number on the robe so that you could actually figure out which one was yours in case you forgot. So we ended up starting in, the layout was almost just like a long hallway, and then down on the sides of the hallway you could go into like saunas or different rooms. Yeah. We ended up taking a staircase down, and there was a whole bunch of stuff down there.
Yeah, and so actually we didn't do too much down there. We kind of scoped it out first. There were hot, dry saunas and also wet saunas. There were different types of pools. And then actually, before we even got into those, we went to our aperitivo.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because that was timed. And so basically what an aperitivo is it's happy hour in Italy. I'm not sure if they call it that name anywhere else. But basically, we'd go into this big restaurant-looking area, and they'd give us little snacks.
Yeah, the snacks included like little pieces of salami, some cheese, peaches, and then we got 2 drinks, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Yeah. I ended up getting sand bitter, which I ended up discovering while in Italy. I actually haven't looked to see if it's here in the United States. But
yeah, you should look.
Yeah, I really like it. I don't like soda in general, usually, but the sand bitter, it only comes in like 100 ml bottles, which is small. A nice tiny little amount. Yeah. And then I feel like the United States, the culture here, they don't have a lot of things that have a bitter taste.
No, it's really it's sweet, and then it has this really bitter taste at the end. And actually, you tried that in Rome.
Yeah, that's where I first discovered it.
Yeah.
So what did you get at that aperitivo?
I ended up having some water, and I also made like a little peach Bellini.
Yeah, that was interesting because they weren't making them for us.
No.
We had to make our own.
No, and so what they had was they had these different stations. So they opened up like multiple bottles of champagne, and people could come and pour champagne or wine. And then next to that station was like water, sparkling water, etc. And then there was another section, which everybody seemed to be confused about walking up to. It had little Moscow Mule cups, like the copper-looking ones. And inside was a little dispenser in 3 of these cups.
And each one was labeled, like, for peach Bellini, mojito.
Yeah.
Forget
but they didn't really tell you how
to mix it.
There were no
instructions, no.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go get some of the, like, champagne.
Yeah.
And I'm going to Actually, I dropped in some of the peach Bellini mix first and then put in the champagne. And then there's a little stirrer there. So I had that. It was really good.
Everyone was confused on it.
Like, everybody would stand there for like 2 minutes looking and like trying to
figure
read.
It out. Which, yeah. So after the aperitivo, we ended up going back down the stairs to the multiple saunas down there. Mm-hmm. One of the really neat things about this spa was that for each sauna or room that you went into, they provided a little like dialogue of what the room was, what was occurring in it,
and how long you were supposed to stay in it.
Right, specifically for the saunas, which is nice.
Yeah.
And how extreme it was and what it's supposed to do for your skin or do for you in general. Mm-hmm. The first one we went into was a dry sauna. Yeah. It was pretty hot in there.
Yeah, I've never been into a sauna actually before.
Yeah.
And it was really hot, and you just start dripping sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was really nice.
It was. We didn't even actually go into there were like 2 rooms in there. We didn't even go into the farthest room. You were like, it's too hot. I can't go into there.
Yeah, it got even hotter. And it was a dimly lit room, wood everywhere.
Yeah.
You could also sit right next to like the heater or whatever it is. I'm not sure.
Whatever drives the sauna room.
Yeah.
And then the ceiling was all exposed brick, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
So we ended up, I had my Fitbit on while in there, so I set a timer on there, and ended up sitting in there for a little bit, and then jumped over to one of the other saunas, and that one was way cooler.
Still warm.
It surprised me though that like people were actually just laying down in there.
Yeah.
Like completely just instead of. I mean, there was enough room that you can do that, but
yeah, it was like big. There were big benches in there, so a lot of people actually could fit in those.
Yeah, and we ended up making it over to a wet sauna, which is I think my favorite type of sauna. Mm-hmm. I've never been to a spa, but used saunas at gyms, and the wet sauna it is really neat. I mean, like, when you go into a wet sauna, you can't see across the room, even though it's only like 7 feet across.
Yeah.
And that was your first time. You said
it was totally like fog in there, hazy. You couldn't see anything. Everybody's spraying themselves with this cold water right when they come in.
Yeah, they have a hose like stationed
and right
in the
that
middle.
Helps with
honestly,
the water in the room, or like
I think I don't know really.
I didn't know the purpose of it, but it also was really nice because it would cool you down after you got really hot.
And you could stay in there a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. And then they usually like have like some type of eucalyptus scent.
Yeah, it smelled good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
After getting out of there, we went over, I think, to the most like picturesque or like TikTok or Instagram worthy room because everyone had their phones out in there.
Yes. If you look up this spa on any kind of social media, that is what you will see. It's basically this room. It has these basically TVs or panels that go across the entire wall.
Yeah, like wrapping
like 3
around.
walls. And it rains inside. And there's like thunder noises.
Yeah.
And everybody's standing in there grouped together. People are taking videos of each other. But the rain was too much. Like, I couldn't even stand in there for that long.
Right. If you ever have been in a shower with the shower heads that have the rain shower heads, it was like a really big rain shower head for the entire room.
Yeah.
And it just poured in there. But then all the people were in there with their phones, and everyone was trying to clamber in there. So we ended up just sitting in there for a minute just to experience it, and then got out. The water wasn't super warm in there either.
No.
One of the other pools they had was a walking pool, which was interesting to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So there were 2 pools. They were kind of in an L shape, but connected together. Yeah. So it was like 2 L's. Mm-hmm. And you go into the hot one. You're supposed to walk around this 5 times. So you put yourself into the hot one, and then there's a super cold one.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's supposed to like shock your body.
I don't know.
Probably. And then I saw people totally immersing their body into it, which you're probably supposed to do. But yeah, it was just interesting to kind of walk around in these different pools.
The one thing that, like, everyone can do whatever, but everyone had their phones out, which is like, it seems like it almost takes away from
the spa.
Right, the spa, right? I think of like a spa as like a way to disconnect.
Of course.
The reset.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we ended up going outside and there was a pool out there and there were some lawn chairs, everyone's sitting out there on their phones.
Yeah.
The pool out there was pretty cool.
It felt really nice. It had all these different areas and you could push a button and there were jets in the pool. So it'd activate these jets for a period of time. They had seats in the pool. They had these areas you could kind of just lounge.
Yeah. It was almost like it was like a metal chair in the pool.
Yeah.
And then jets were pushing through
around you.
Yeah, around there. Yeah. It was super neat.
The one part I did not like about the pool is that there were a lot of couples in there. We are a couple, but there was a lot of PDA happening around that pool. It was like, okay, people, like, we get it.
I mean, people were going at it.
Like, they're going at it. Like, it's like embarrassing.
It wasn't like a peck on the cheek or a kiss on the lips.
Yeah.
Full-out make-out sessions.
It was too much, and eventually we got out.
And, like, guys were carrying the women out of the pool.
Yeah, it was just a lot. I mean, I get it was, like, a romantic setting, and they have it, like, really cool lights in the pool, and around they have these beautiful, like, arches that are in this, like, brick. Like, they're made out of brick.
Right. It was almost like, how you think of, like, Italian
Like, if you went
Roman
to Rome,
arches.
you might see it or something like that.
And then they had, like, a train car over there as well. We didn't go in there.
That was a sauna.
Yeah. It was a train car that was converted into a sauna.
We didn't go there because we had tried so many different saunas. Right. It didn't feel like we needed to. This place must have had,
I'm guessing maybe at least 10 saunas.
Yeah. It was a ton.
Right.
And they were, like, around every corner.
Right.
Like, not even down just in that first floor.
No.
They were up on the next floor as well.
They also had a rehydration station, which was, you get your water and stuff, just because the saunas make you sweat so much.
Yeah.
And then we ended up going back over to this. It was a really huge room, honestly. It had, like, cushions in it. Then it had these poles that came up and ended in a light.
It kind of looked like a bird cage,
right? Almost.
And there were bird sounds going on.
Yeah,
also
and forest sounds. It was really relaxing in there. Talking about the couples again, like couples were cuddled up and cuddled in there, which was interesting. And then towards the back of the room, they had another room, which was like a red light therapy room. Yeah,
and you just lay in these beds. They're all kind of lined up in a circle, and you push the button, and these red lights just kind of hover over your body, and you sit there. It's very relaxing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. There's a lot of. I like that part the most.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorites. I also really like the saunas more than I expected.
Yeah.
What was interesting that I told Abe was, while we were in Milan, it was so hot. Like, as soon as you stepped outside, I felt sick as soon as I stepped outside. It was so hot. And I felt like my body couldn't recoup after I had that kind of breakdown earlier on that I talked about in the last podcast. But what was interesting is I really enjoyed the sauna, which I didn't expect because I don't like the heat, I guess, that much. And since it had been so hot outside, it was just uncomfortable. But
yeah, you're going to say...
The reason... why I like them is because it was kind of a controlled environment where I could step out of that heat and back in. I didn't end up leaving. I would stay there for a period of time.
It's kind of like, I think, like when you go to work out and you're walking on a treadmill and you're like, yeah, I could do another mile or half a mile. And but when you're out walking on the sidewalk or something, you're like, yeah, I'm done.
Like, I can't. Yeah. It's interesting, like, how that works.
Right. So... the spa was amazing. We ended up catching an Uber back, and the following day we flew out from Milan to Rome.
Yeah,
we caught ITA Airways,
which has been really nice.
One of the interesting things with the ITA Airways at this Milan airport that we went to, there's a couple airports, it sounds like, in Milan, was at this airport we couldn't check our bags until it was like 2 hours and 30 minutes to us boarding the plane. So we had to hang out,
Yeah, we got there really early. We almost were going to hang out in a different part of Milan, and then we're like, we just have our luggage already packed up. Let's go to the airport.
Yeah.
The thing that's really nice about these airports that we've been to in Italy is that they have shops and restaurants outside of the security
that's
area.
True. Yeah.
Which we don't really have as much
in
at
the
home.
United States, yeah.
And so because we couldn't check our luggage, like we could go to a little cafe and have a little coffee, or we could go to
I got a
Hudson
cappuccino,
News.
And you got a cappuccino too, I think.
And then we shared like a salmon bowl.
Yeah, which is really good.
But there's like Hudson News out there and everything. There's multiple things you could shop if you wanted to. So it's nice that we could be occupied like before going in and checking our luggage.
Yeah, and then one of the other things about all the airports that we've gone through in Italy was that their marketing is like on point, because after you get through security, we'll come back to talk about the security because I want to talk about that. But after you get through the security, you have to walk through a store to get to the next point.
Yeah, it's not just a store; it's a duty-free store,
right.
So you're shopping tax-free.
Yeah, but you have to walk through it. That's the only way you can get going to the gates.
Yeah, and it's things like, it's not cheap things.
No.
It's like perfume, designer perfume, designer items, purses, bags, shoes, or I didn't see shoes, but just things like that. There's alcohol. So yeah, they make you go through the store. Everything's very well lit.
Right.
And, it looks interesting, so.
Coming back to the security portion, or the TSA portion, I don't know. The TSA in Italy they were immensely,
awesome.
Yeah, they were so friendly.
Everybody's friendly.
They didn't, I didn't have that same like anxiety inducing going through the United States TSA.
Yeah, I feel like that's always the most stressful part for me, and it's so easy here. Like, yeah, sure, there's like tiny lines forming, but they don't really rush you. Like, you can ask them questions.
You didn't have to take off your shoes.
You don't have to take off your shoes. You don't even have to take out your laptop every time. So they were really nice.
Yeah. Also,
you don't get X-rayed.
Yeah, you don't get X-rayed. You go through a metal detector as well. One of the things about the Italian people we noticed is, we don't speak Italian, so we don't know what they're saying to each other, but they're always very chatty with their coworkers.
Yeah.
Like it's almost that they, unfortunately, you the customer, it's not as like customer based.
Yeah.
Like when we were ordering a coffee, they're chatting with their coworker, and they're going to chat with their coworker until they're ready to serve you.
They're going to have a good time at work.
And it's going to be low stress.
Yeah.
Is that really how it is? I don't know. I haven't talked with anyone about it, but that's what it seems to be from the outside perspective.
Yeah, I don't know if you've had the same experience, but what's been interesting is that I've gone to a couple places, and as this trip has progressed, people just speak to me in Italian.
Yeah.
Like, they don't assume that I speak English.
It's almost like we learn some of the, maybe, how people act in this culture that kind of allows us to maybe blend a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, they know right away when I'm like, what?
Yeah, and they're like, oh, yeah, English. So
like the guy, when I stepped through security and I went through the metal detector, the guy stood there and his arms were crossed and he said something really fast in Italian. I was like, and he was like, have a great flight, ma'am. I was like, okay.
Great, thank you. So after getting through TSA, we caught our flight, and one of the other things about catching these flights is that it seems that, we almost have to take a bus every single time.
Yes,
or
to the plane.
We have to walk across the tarmac to get onto these planes. Also, talking about it now, I'm thinking maybe it's because it's these inner country flights, ITA airlines, so they're smaller planes. So maybe they don't get all the terminals like the larger planes.
And this particular airport was like a business airport. They have a lot of like inter-country flights. Yeah.
So caught our plane, and we had booked the Hilton Rome Airport Hotel just to make it easy. So that, and we were able to walk right there across sky bridges.
Right.
There were probably like, I don't know, maybe 5 to 6 sky bridges that we walked across.
Yeah, and you might be thinking, why did you just stay like a night in Rome just so you could catch your plane in the morning? Well, when we initially started planning for this trip, we booked a flight in and out of Rome. And so we knew that we would have to get to Rome at some point in our trip at the end
Yeah, that's a good point to explain that. Yeah, because we built this trip completely from the ground up. Didn't have anyone help us with it.
Yeah.
And so like Alexa said, we booked the first thing we did was book our flights in and out.
And that's all we knew that we were doing for sure.
And then we were able to build the rest of the trip from that.
Yeah.
And we were originally going to plan to come back to Rome and spend maybe 3 or 4 days there.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out like that. And so we had to do this overnight hotel.
Yeah.
And our flight out in the morning was at 7 o'clock. So we didn't want to be messing around with the buses to get there and everything else.
Yeah.
So we ended up eating at the Hilton restaurant. And honestly, out of all the restaurants and places we've eaten at in Italy, the places that try to
are more like Americanized almost, or try to create American cuisine.
It's not good.
It's not.
No, and I wonder if it's the same for Italians if they come to the United States, like we're
like
trying
Olive
to make
Garden.
like Olive
like,
Garden,
what?
right? Like, oh my gosh, I was
They'd probably be horrified.
Like, no, this is not it.
Yeah.
But no shame or hate on Olive Garden.
I mean,
but
we like it.
Yeah, Olive Garden's great, but to an Italian, it probably wouldn't be.
It wouldn't be the same.
No, and so the same thing goes when we go there. So the restaurant. I mean, the food was it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
But we ended up walking across to the airport to figure out Alexa's VAT tax.
Yeah, we kind of just decided we would scope it out since we were so close, and we went to a different customs desks and tried to get information about what to do, and they basically told me I would have to put my item into a checked bag. I mentioned I had bought a purse previously. I didn't really want to do that just because it's such an expensive item.
Right.
But we were able to get more information.
No one knew really.
Yeah, we got bits and pieces.
Right.
Not everybody
No one
knew exactly
story.
what to do, which was also confusing for us because I wanted to make sure I did everything correctly to make sure I got the refund.
It was really good to walk through the whole process before doing it at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right, and
the following day.
You actually asked a good question because we flew with Lufthansa, and neither of us have flown with them before. And so we were able to go up and ask somebody who worked at the airport about what we needed to do because if I had to use my check luggage, like I needed my ticket to board the plane in order to do the VAT refund and get my customs stamp. So we basically, the next day, had to come to the airport really early. I think we were there at like 3 or 4 a.m. And we had to get our ticket, show our passport. They had to put the sticker onto my luggage and Abe's. And then I had to bring my luggage to the customs area, fill out something on a screen with more information, the global blue information.
And then you put your stuff in the luggage. And
Yep, I packed in the luggage and I said, I hope it gets to the United States.
Yeah, so we had a layover in Germany. Yeah. And because, we'll come back to that, but because we weren't actually grabbing our luggage, or Alexa wasn't grabbing her luggage in Germany, it was like, it's a connecting flight. Yeah. We thought we were going to have to do the VAT tax in Germany because that was our last stop in Europe.
Yeah, and they say you have to do it in your online they say you have to show your forms and get the customs stamp to prove that you bought the item in your last stop in Europe because that item must leave Europe permanently to get the refund.
But because it's a connecting flight, our last stop is technically the beginning of our flight out of Europe.
Which we would not have known if we hadn't asked like several people.
Right, yeah. Everyone kind of had a different answer. So we got to our gate really early. We probably had an hour and a half to sit there. I messed around on my iPad. I think Alexa did the same. And got on our flight to Germany, and got over to the gate. And everyone was having their tickets checked by the
and their passports.
person. Yeah, because it was the last stop out of Europe. And Alexa got up to the counter.
Yeah, and so actually, before we even got up to the counter, we were almost there. And a lady who works for the airline, she came up. She's like, can I see your tickets? So she's looking. She's like, on my specific ticket, it said SSSS. And she was like, do you know what this means? And I'm like, no. And she's like, you have to go through another security checkpoint. You have to be like searched again, basically.
It's random.
And it's random selection. So
right.
when we got
Mine
up,
didn't have it on it, so I didn't have to go.
Right. And so we get up there and then they're like, oh, well, you have to go through the security checkpoint. Please stand over there, ma'am. I'm going to take your ticket. And so they take my ticket and I have to go stand with the rest of the group who got selected. And Abe's just, nicely sitting in his chair next to the gate. And then this guy, he takes a big group of us. He's like, follow me. And we go to this we don't even go back out to the regular security check area. We go to a specific Lufthansa.
You said it was a wall that had Lufthansa logo on it.
It looked like it was the place where you would check in for a flight, basically. Right. And they had like a little sign that said like security point or whatever. And we had to get in line. The guy called out our tickets. We had to get in line in the order he called us. And basically back there, they had me take things out of my bag. I had to open up everything. I had to take off my shoes. I had to sit down in a chair. I had to stick my legs out in front of me. They had to pat me down. There were police back there. And so I don't know if that's something that they usually do, but it took some time. And then by the time I got back, there was only 10 minutes until we had to board. So I couldn't really go look at like the little shops and things like that.
Yeah. So getting on our flight and taking the flight, it was a long flight. It was like 9 hours and 40 minutes or something like that, I think.
And it was a direct flight to Seattle.
Right. They fed us, thank goodness, because we didn't bring any food. We
totally
forgot.
Hungry.
So we got 2 meals on there. One was like a mac and cheese or a pasta dish.
One was like a barbecue, mashed potato.
Yeah, and that tasted pretty good. The gravy, I tasted the gravy out of that. It was amazing.
It was really good. Yeah. I was so hungry at that point. I was like, I will eat anything.
Right. We got some coffee, and then towards the end of the flight, they gave us... I forget what we got was it a sandwich?
It was a sandwich.
Yeah,
I have no idea what it was.
It was like a tomato cheese sandwich or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it tastes like it had artichoke or something.
Maybe artichoke, yeah. So, and then I thought they were going to give us some more coffee before then, but they didn't, which was fine. It was a long flight. Unfortunately, I did not sleep. You didn't really sleep that much either, I don't think.
No, at the end I was kind of dozing off, but I was like, I just want to make it there. Like it was interesting because we basically flew back in time.
We only lost 2 hours technically.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened was, I get what you mean.
Because we left at 10 in the morning and we got into Seattle at 12.
We left Rome at 7 a.m. That is when our flight left.
Oh,
then,
that's right.
When we got to Germany, it was like 10-ish.
That's why I was getting confused. Okay.
And then when we got home, it was a little after noon.
Yeah.
And so basically we gained time, but really it was like 9 o'clock at night in Italy. So that's the time zone we were on.
Yeah, we were pretty tired. We came in through the Seattle airport, and it was interesting because I've never flown internationally into Seattle before. It was a whole different section of the airport.
Yeah.
And they had us take these. Thank goodness it was what's it called? Not elevator, but. What's the stairs that make you move? I can't.
Oh,
escalator.
Like
I'm thinking of an escalator.
Oh yeah, escalator.
Couldn't think of the name. They had us take this escalator. It felt like almost like 3 stories up, just straight up.
Yeah.
And then it went over this like bridge and then back down. I'm wondering if that's so like planes could pass underneath it.
Maybe. It was really tall.
It was tall.
Yeah.
And then they wanted us to go pick up our luggage before we went to customs.
Yeah, so that we could declare any items that we were bringing with us. And it actually was super smooth to move through customs. We saw a huge line forming when we were getting our baggage, and I was like, oh my gosh, how long is this going to take? But those were all non-U.S., non-Canadian citizens, and so, or they had their visa or whatever it was, but because we were U.S. citizens, we could go straight up to the counter, basically, and just tell them, and it was super fast, and we got through, and we were back home.
Yeah. We ended up grabbing a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Pumpkin spice lattes. I don't know when they came out, but they were out when we came back.
Yeah, it's fall all of a sudden.
I got a pumpkin spice latte. You got a matcha.
I got an iced matcha latte, which I have been craving with my oat milk. So it was really good.
And then my sister picked us up, which was nice of her.
Yeah.
And we tried to stay up as late as we could. I mean, at this point, by the time we ended up going to bed, it was we probably went to bed around 7-ish. And
we had been up for about 24 hours.
24-hour mark. And then it's just been jet lag since and trying to...
Oh my God. It's kind of been bad. I've never had this kind of jet lag before.
Yeah.
I've been waking up at odd times. I woke up at midnight and I was fully awake. I was okay, time to wake up for the day. And so I stayed up a couple hours. Then I went back to sleep. Then I woke up at 7. And it's just kind of been a pattern of that.
Yeah, I've been going to sleep around when Alexa goes to sleep around 7 or 8. And then getting up at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning. And,
doing your full routine.
Right. Yeah, and I don't, I sleep until 10, 11 usually. Yeah. So... hopefully I can keep that up. I'd love to be a morning person, but we'll see. So coming up on, we've finished our Italian trip.
Yeah.
We're going to be taking other trips in the future, and we'll talk about those. But with wrapping up this trip, we have to get back to our regular daily grind life, unfortunately. And so we're going to be releasing podcasts. We're going to shoot for about 1 to 2 times every week.
Yeah.
We don't have designated days yet. We'll figure that out as we go.
Once we get into kind of a groove, we'll figure that
out. Thank you again for joining us on Get Out and Enjoy Life podcast, or GOEL.
And just before we go, I want to say thank you for listening to all of our episodes so far and joining us on our awesome Italian journey. It was a lot of fun. We got to do so much while we were there, and we're so grateful that we were able to even do this. We hope you get out and enjoy life in whatever way that means to you, whether that's getting out in your neighborhood, seeing friends, traveling, whatever that means to you. And we hope you continue to join us.
Thank you for joining us again, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.